All right, so most of you probably know what Ethereum is, but just in case you don't, open source peer-to-peer blockchain platform, so it's not necessarily just a cryptocurrency. You can also build really cool applications on top of it. It was invented by Vitalik in late 2013, and it launched in 2015. It's the #2 cryptocurrency by market capitalization currently. So I'm going to give a definition of governance. This is from Vlad Zamfir, who's been running around the conference discussing governance with people. Governance is the process by which we attempt to establish and maintain/revoke the legitimacy of decisions, decision-making processes, and related governance norms and expectations. I really like this definition because it kind of covers the whole spectrum of governance decisions. It's talking about the legitimacy of decisions, and that's a big part of it, like whether or not these decisions that are being made actually came from the community in the first place. So let me kind of go back and explain the early times of Ethereum and kind of how we used to be organized. So 2014 to early 2015, basically all the development tools, all the clients, all of the software for Ethereum was developed by the Ethereum Foundation, which had a crowd sale or a pre-sale to distribute Ether. And basically, there was no other companies doing anything. There was just a core group, team group. They had, meetings that were just about 8 to 12 people that would just decide decisions for the coin and Ethereum going forward, and it was very simple and easy. 2015 to 2016, outside entities started to form. People like Joe Lubin made Consensus, Gavin Wood created Parity, things like that happened. Other people left to do their own ventures that involved Ethereum, and it started spreading out, which I think is a good thing. We didn't want it to be the Ethereum Foundation forever, just kind of running stuff, So 2016, you start to see conversations about enterprise Ethereum. It was just, mostly some Skype chats at first, some people being a little bit interested in the idea of businesses coming into Ethereum and developing on it. It was starting to get a little bit more popular, and more infrastructure was being developed by third parties. Things like, I believe, Infura started in 2016, which is basically a solution to have connect to an Ethereum node remotely. So if you have a dApp that you don't want your clients or your users to run a local node, you can use a remote node using Infura. 2017, Enterprise Ethereum brings in traditional companies into the ecosystem, and there's also more visible government and academic interest, which was really important to kind of spread out the influence and the ideas coming into the Ethereum community. So what it is now, we have our leader, Vitalik, giver of Lambos, savior to all. Just kidding. I really like this slide because the way I set it up, it kind of looks like stair steps, and it's like aesthetically pleasing. So that's my main point of this slide. But there's basically, here are the major players in the Ethereum ecosystem. We got Consensus, which is an incubator for Ethereum programs or dApps and other infrastructure tools, web tooling. The Web3 Foundation is a newer organization, and they support different tools, including Ethereum, and kind of forward the message of this new Web3 future, they call it. Parity Technologies, that was founded by Gavin Wood, who was one of the co-founders of Ethereum. He started this to kind of create a more diverse client set by creating a client called Parity, which was written in Rust, whereas all the other clients were written in Go or Java or JavaScript, etc. The Ethereum Foundation, it's the earliest organization for Ethereum and where it all began. Enterprise Ethereum Alliance is a large organization that brings in a bunch of enterprises to have working groups and discussions about Ethereum and how it can really affect their businesses and things like that. The Fellowship of Ethereum Magicians is a new group, and it formed out of the need for more groups to discuss issues like governments, technical issues, things like that. You can think of it, they're kind of aiming to be the IETF of Ethereum in a way, something that's outside of just a few people picking the next steps, to have a web forum for technical talk, basically shoot down ideas that aren't in line with technical decisions, but not to make philosophical decisions. The client devs that attend the All Core Devs meeting, every 2 weeks I run a meeting where we have all of the core low-level protocol developers from across the ecosystem come together. It's usually about 10 to 30 people who get on a big Zoom call, and we discuss future hard forks, current issues, and what I normally like to do with those meetings is I don't like to have like dApps come to the table or like EIPs, which are Ethereum Improvement Protocols that deal with like token standards. We keep it very technical and like low level and straightforward to what's going to improve Ethereum at a protocol level for the future. Ethereum Improvement Proposal editors, I'm also an EIP editor. If you're familiar with BIPs, or I think Zcash has one too, right? Do they have something like that? Yeah, okay, zips, yeah. So basically it's a way to formalize different upgrades to the system. Some community standards are formed that way. ERC20 tokens are probably the most popular and well-known standard that formed out of the EIP system. And then finally, highly used infrastructure tools that have a lot of say in how things operate in the ecosystem and are generally listened to if they have a major opinion, like MetaMask, which is a browser plugin to access Ethereum, MyCrypto, which is an Ethereum online wallet that's incredibly popular, and then Infura, which I talked about earlier. So here's the problems with Ethereum governance. EIPs and the all-core dev meetings are pretty much the only formal way that we move forward with decisions about network upgrades and other like important current things about the protocol. And it's really kind of the same people in both of those meetings, and it's the same people who push stuff forward. There's a problem with participation, really. People make the same people make decisions over and over again because no one wants to step up to the plate or the expertise isn't there for the vast majority of people using Ethereum. There's also not very many good signaling systems. Someone mentioned Carbon Vote in a different talk. That is a voting mechanism where you can vote with your Ether on-chain about a topic. So like maybe ASIC resistance. There's another coin voting tool that's similar to Carbon Vote that was ASIC resistance was voted on recently. So you take your coins and you stake them up, and however many coins that you have is like your influence in the vote. So we need better signaling systems. We don't have a way to gauge the community. I mean, whenever I want to do that, I go to like Twitter and Reddit and like the Facebook groups and Discord and all those other things. But that's really biased because it's whatever I happen to see that day. So we need something to really gauge the community better. So what can we do? We can involve more diverse groups and participants. I think that's something every blockchain needs. Diversity really helps get new ideas out there and make it less boring. Create safe places for Discord. A lot of places are really trolly. Crypto Twitter and Reddit are probably the most trolly I've seen, but we want to stay away from those kind of things. Encourage participation and outspoken opinions. So same thing, just pretty much help people speak up, say your opinion matters. More governance structures. We need more things other than EIPs and the Fellowship of Ethereum Magicians to decide things for the future. I don't really know the answer or what those, I guess, systems are, but I think it's really important that we have that. And then continuous improvement on the current structures. We're actually in the process of restructuring the EIPs to make it a little more clear how to contribute to the ecosystem. And because right now the process is a little bit convoluted, and it was inherited by Bitcoins, which is kind of boring and convoluted, so I want to make it fun. If things aren't fun, people aren't going to participate. So, and then also we're improving the all-core dev meetings by making it a little more clear what their purpose and function are, and who can be included and invited. Because right now, I'm basically the gatekeeper, and I have way too much power. Like, we need more people doing things like the core developer meetings and taking the reins for these kind of decisions, so it's not just me letting people into this closed source meeting and we don't form this cabal of Ethereum developers. Which, to be clear, we're not doing that right now. We are not a cabal. So is Ethereum centralized? I don't think it is. We're way too disorganized to be centralized. that's pretty much all that slide has. So what can Zcash do? You could panic, but I don't suggest it, so that's why I crossed it out. You can study and develop good governance structures early on, which I think that the Zcash Foundation is doing a really great job of. I participated in the recent election for the new board members and the proposals, and it was a really fun process. They used Helios, and it was really smooth and easy to do, and I think that's a good step, and we can really expand that to be more broad and more inclusive to the community. I really believe figureheads are good early on in a blockchain project. People like Zuko and Vitalik really, have that charisma and that drive to get the project going at first. But after a while, the influence needs to be lessened so it doesn't turn into a dictatorship situation, which I really think both Zuko and Vitalik are doing a good job of. But I've seen other blockchains where it's kind of, one guy has all the power right now, and it's like not really, it's pretty centralized basically. And then also look at stuff like the IETF and other organizations that already have existing applications, tools, structures to help with the governance in general. Thank you so much. I'm going to introduce the next speaker. It is a coffee break. Go out there.